Okay. Show me.
What is up, YouTubers? Dutch in the house. Thank you very much for tuning in. And this frame here is my Variance Frames Frog version 3 with a custom paint job. I recently did a video on this frame, and if you haven't seen it, I'll have a link up there to my video about this frame. Not really a review, more of a show and tell, if you will. In this video I'm going to show you which motors I've selected for this frame. See, I am going to fly this quadcopter even though it's a one-of-one frame, right? I am going to, it's made to be flown, right? So I'm going to fly this quadcopter or this frame. So what motors did I select for this quadcopter and why? Let me show you two other quadcopters I've built in the past, which will explain my motor choice. Hartstikke idee, two dead cat quadcopters, both iFlight frames, as you can tell. So these quadcopters look not 100% identical, they aren't, but pretty similar. And let me see, yeah, even the propellers are the same. And like I said, both dead cat frames, 5-inch. So one of the major differences between these two quadcopters is actually the reason why I built these two quadcopters. They are mostly the same because I wanted to compare two motors here. And let me zoom in a little on those. On your left you see a KO Technologies motor, a Demon Seed motor, Cryo Tech motor. And this is the freshest, the newest one of these two dead cat quadcopters. On your right you see a Zing motor. This is also a 2208 motor. Both of these are 2208 motors. So again, I built me these two quadcopters to compare these motors, but also to see if I actually like 2208 motors to begin with, right? So to that I should add that both of these quadcopters fly very, very nicely. Also very, very differently though. They are really, because of these motors, they turned out to be quite different in feel and performance. So let me actually take you on a flight with this quadcopter with the Demon Seed motors from KO Technologies. And this is a DVR recording, so I recorded with my goggle. The quadcopter doesn't have an action camera yet because I want to compare apples to apples. Neither of these two quadcopters have action cameras on them, at least not yet. So here is the DVR recording, and this is untuned. One of the first flights I did with this quadcopter, and as you will see, the flight is super duper smooth. I wasn't even trying to fly super smooth, but as you can tell, I don't think there's any proper oscillation anywhere in this video. So yeah, is that due to the motors? Well, they run smooth. That's one thing you could tell from this video, I guess. Also, I guess the latest Betaflight works well on a 5-inch quadcopter that's not super duper light. Yeah, that's something you can conclude from this DVR recording as well. One thing I could sense, and that's hard for you to see from this video, is that these KO Tech motors perform better, or at least different, than the 2208 Zings. And different in the sense that the initial response is much faster with these motors. I don't know if the actual end speed would be any different. I'd struggle saying anything about that, but definitely the initial punch, the response you get from changing the position of your throttle stick is a lot faster with these KO Tech motors. The Zings, even though they perform well, it's also a smooth running quadcopter. I wouldn't say that there's a delay. It's not really a delay, but it kind of feels like driving a diesel car. You do have the torque, but maybe not a turbo or something like that. Again, it's hard to explain. However, as you'll see in a minute, I do know why these KO Tech motors perform better, have more power. Actually, let me show you the insides of these KO Tech motors compared to Zing motors. Okay, at this point in the video, I do want to state that this video is not intended to knock on iFlight or Zing motors at all. Not at all. I have a lot of quadcopters with Zing motors and I like those quadcopters, so definitely not intended for that. Also, I should state that these Cryo Tech motors cost more. At least at the time I'm shooting this video. Originally the Zing 2208s weren't cheap either. Again, at this point in time these Cryo Tech motors cost me more. So you have been looking at the guts of these two motors for a couple of seconds here. And it's become painfully obvious why these Cryo Tech motors perform better. Actually there's more to it. But you can see that these magnets are closer together, but also a lot thicker. Not just a little bit thicker, but yeah, I don't even have to measure them, right? It is painfully obvious. Yeah. Okay, so that's one of the reasons why these Cryo Tech motors perform better. They simply have bigger magnets. However, the build of the stator is also different, and that might be hard to see. But I can tell you that the Zing motors have single strand windings, whereas the Cryo Tech motors have multi-strand windings. So basically every strand in the winding is, well, multi-strand. More than one strand. Basically what you see here is more copper windings. And in that sense, these motors are more comparable probably to the T motor F60s, right? You might be familiar with those motors. Those motors are also powerful, as you probably know. There is, however, a downside, or maybe even two downsides, to multi-strand motors like these. Again, they simply perform, well, better. They have more power, they produce more power. However, they are also less efficient, and that means that they produce more heat. And heat is not a friend of your electronics, in any sense. The magnets don't like heat, and these windings don't like heat. They will degrade over time and during a flight. If you are running, for instance, a race, and the motors will heat up, you will actually feel that. You will discount that on your battery probably, but the motors themselves will perform worse as they heat up as well. So that's again a downside of any multi-strand motor. However, these Cryo Tech motors, the Demon Seed motors, have a word on them over here. I'm not sure if you'll be able to read it. Cryo. So these motors have themselves Cryo Tech. Yeah, okay, that's partially obviously marketing speak, right? But there's more to it than that. Oh, by the way, this is actually a 2207 motor, by the way, from Zing, but the magnet thickness of a 2208 is the same. Anyway, so Cryo Tech. That's basically a couple of things on these motors. You can see from the shape of the top of the bell that it's a cone shaped, and this shape is here to tunnel air into the motors. As you probably know, some motors have scoops in them to try to run the air into the motor. The Cryo Tech motors have a bell shape that's, well, that cone shape is intended to capture all the air that hits your bell. You could probably imagine that if you wouldn't have this cone shape, this tapering of the edge, that half of the air that hits the edge of your bell will taper off to the outside of the motor. This way, more of the air should be tunneled, thrusted into your motor, cooling the windings and the magnets, of course. And apart from that, the build of the stator itself, this is the stator of the motor, is such that there is more airflow as well. Now I should say that is hard for me to say anything about. To me, I can see that it's multi-strand, this Cryo Tech stator. And I can also see that there's some lubrication in this motor, which is something I haven't often seen in motors. But other than that, yeah, I'm not really qualified to say that this looks far better constructed to tunnel air through it. I could say, however, that I have run the quadcopter, that Dead Cat quadcopter with the Cryo Tech motors a couple of times so far, and they didn't get warm. So for what it's worth. So guys, the Cryo Technologies Demon Seed Cryo Tech motors. By the way, I should state that one of the reasons why I chose these motors is that they simply look great, but that wouldn't be enough, right? They also perform great. They also cost a little more than your average motor, but again, from experience, I know that these will perform well. For this quadcopter, I actually considered these motors. These are the brand new Zing, the Cyber Zings actually. And I haven't run these motors at all. I actually received these motors in the mail today. So I can't tell you that these are great motors. They do look nice, definitely. And I will be running these on some quadcopter, definitely. So in the future I will be able to tell you if these perform well. At this point in time, however, these are the motors I'll be using for this build. And again, I know that these will perform well. So there it is, a short video on my motor choice for this Ference frame Frog version 3. I would have liked to add some live flight footage, but the weather is meh. I can't go out and fly at this point in time. In the future I will. I will be building the rest of this quadcopter up, and I'll do, let's see, I will be doing a video on the VTX, as I'll be using a different VTX in this build. More on that in the future. If you are left with questions, hit me up and comment down below. Catch you on the next video. Bye bye.